off in much the same way, if that's okay with you. I've got an intro with a couple of things just to clarify, etc., and then we'll do actions. Last meeting, there aren't too many, but there's one quite key point, so that may well go on a bit, and then we'll talk about status and short-term plans. So where we are, what you're trying to do about it, and where we go next. And there's obviously lots of input on that. Communication going forward, which was the big one last time, and of course is again. Formally, we're going to introduce SOS, Save Our Southend, which is rebadged from another group.
Well, I thought that's what I've been doing for the last 23 years.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be formal. However, they have sent me a few questions, and
I can join that
anyway. Some of those might come out anyway, Ron, before, but I very much want them to lead on their main bits. Okay, so I'm not going to ask questions they've got for reasons I'll come on to. Okay, so we'll give it a go, and if it heads off in a different direction, it will. I think.
Can I just say that I want to give this meeting an hour, so come around 7 o'clock, like we tried to do last time. It went on a bit longer last time, but I'd like.
No, that's fine. That's our intention as well. You agreed to the recording, Ron, but I didn't get time to chase you on the second point, which I'd already asked, which was we would like to publish after. Not much point in recording it if we're not going to publish it. So we're expecting to publish it. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, and we intend to publish the previous one as well, although it's marginally out of date now, but there's still some quite relevant things in there. There were some good questions in that one as well.
The only caution I would say is that even amongst your own supporter groups, and whether you're on the same committee or whether it's different supporter groups, you'll have difficulty agreeing what you perceive as the way forward on any subject, whether we sign a strike or whether we don't sign a strike, or whether whatever we do. That's football. You get a variety of views, and I think that's why you have committees, and try and be one voice, which I know it's incredibly difficult in football, and it'll never happen. But then when you offer it to the wider audience, and they're getting it second hand, then sometimes it raises more questions than it answers. Yeah, it's a matter for you, just that I will engage with this group, but beyond that, we could not devote the time to try and create a forum for everybody. It's impossible.
Well, and if you remember, which was exactly why I wanted the, let's call it, protest group as was, to be involved, and clearly that's morphed and developed, and they're now involved. So to my mind, that's perfect.
What we thought is that after the last meeting, that we would then have regular weekly or 2 weekly meetings with a variety of questions coming from all supporters, and then publish the minutes of what was said. And I still support that.
Yeah, sure. So you're jumping ahead a fraction. Let me do the intro, because that is exactly what we want to get onto. I don't know if that's my machine or someone else's, but anyway, sorry. Firstly, how are you, Ron? I know you rang me, so I know how you are, but it is probably just worth spending a few minutes on that, because it might explain some things.
Yeah, it probably will do. So I was in hospital the last couple of days because there's torn artery. That was through convulsive coughing as a result of COVID. So just really heavy coughing over the Christmas. And I tore the artery in my neck, close to the bone, just under the skull, on New Year's Eve. That landed me in Southend Hospital. But now I'm been having further tests of how we repair it, because it's difficult to repair. You can't stent it, stent across it. Offered it self-heals, and they thought it would self-heal. And it may still do, but it tore further in February, and so I'm under very good hands, neurologists in Queen Square. I went into the National Neurological Hospital for a couple of days, for them to do further tests in theatre. And I've got a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock to consider what the options will be. All being well, because the options are difficult. You can't bypass it very easy without considerable risk. About 90% of them heal themselves. The surgeon made the analogy that some people can fly on 3 propellers rather than 4. So the artery can either be closed down by their means, or it may just collapse over time because it gets squashed because of the leak in the artery and the blood going out. It creates a balloon and a bubble the other side of it, and that presses on a muscle and it closes down the artery. But then the blood finds a different route. It's actually called Will's circle. So one of the tests yesterday was to see whether my Willis circle was sufficiently strong enough to for the blood to go from one side to the other without using this artery. And the thought was, it is. But I would prefer it to heal itself. So yeah, I didn't have much sleep over the last 48 hours, but I'm back in work today, so I'm fine.
I did give
Good luck with that, yeah.
I did give Ron the option to postpone, and he declined, just to let everyone know. That's this afternoon. And Chris, it answers a couple of questions we've had where people say, "Oh, Ron wasn't at the game again," and that would explain why he wasn't there Tuesday. So,
but I'm at Harrogate on Saturday.
Okay. So on that point, one of the questions sent to me was if you're in bad health. I mean, I don't know how you really describe bad health, but clearly you've been suffering a little bit. Is there a plan in place for if you have to go to hospital again, or is it just radio silence communication? And
I think between Patrick, Ricky Duncan and Reese, all the operational responsibilities are looked after. We meet on a Monday, and I think that they might need direction from time to time, but they're very capable of running the operational side of the business. I talk to Mark all the time. In fact, we had a Zoom call at 6 o'clock last night for an hour and a half. So I wouldn't say ill health. I mean, I've torn an artery because I got COVID. The answer is I probably got COVID because I met a supporter group before Christmas, whereas up until then I was largely self-isolating, and there was a number of them. I was asked to go and see them in one of the boxes. There was a lot of them. It was their Christmas bash. I don't know whether any of them had COVID, who knows? But that was the only external contact I had with anybody. So maybe I was a bit stupid. But hey ho. I had no breathing difficulties. It was just simply really bad headaches, and the blood pressure was huge. And that combined with a coughing, no matter, if you've got blood pressure and you're coughing, then it's only got one way to go, up through the system into the arteries. It's not so unusual. You'll be surprised how many actually tear the it's called the carotid artery. There's 2, one either side, the thick ones either side of the neck. But often through car accidents where they get whiplash, things like that. But they do heal. It's just unfortunate that I tore it again. Don't know how, but it happens. It hasn't stopped me functioning since I came back to work first week of January. It's just I've got perpetual headaches, and it's not you lot, but you might add to it.
near time. Okay, thanks.
I think over time it will repair itself. If not, we'll find a solution.
Okay, thanks. So just to set the scene really on the change, I guess it's become clear over the last few months that whilst the trust has strived to represent the fans, we have 1,500 members, but clearly loads of people aren't members, and many feel, I think, or certainly certainly a significant number of vocal supporters don't think we're asking the right questions. They've criticised us for that, and maybe the answers are not coming. And I have some sympathy with that personally. I'm not aware of any question I haven't asked, but perception is reality, and if enough people don't think I'm asking the right questions, clearly I'm not. Protest Group stroke SOS is born, and most of apart from the shock invite, most of the people are trust members already, as it happens. They're just not happy with some of the things we've been doing. And I think that is why the SOS exists. I think, well, SOS can speak for themselves, but that's why it's going to be different this time. So I'll handle the questions that are sent in, the general flow from other people, and then I'll hand over to SOS, and they've got some very specific questions. So I've got a few questions coming from some people, and of course I've got some of my own, which will overlap, I think, but I don't think that really matters. So hopefully that's fine, and we'll move on. The actions from the last meeting, there were three actually. I've written two down here, but I'll tell you the third in a second. But the first was you were going to circulate your thoughts on the surgery idea. I think you said something like, I've done a lot of work on this, I've written quite a bit, and I'll send it over. And of course you didn't. Which is why because you asked me in the call, I think, to collate feedback, but of course I never got the opportunity to do that.
No.
So I chased you 3 times, and the rest is history kind of approach. But I did also check how you were, because I'm not unsympathetic to people being ill and not able to perform that, but it literally was radio silence for a month, and that really, if we didn't get that across first time, I don't know what else we could have done, because the last meeting was just full of communication. That's what it was about. And we just all agreed it was bad, including you, and you apologised for it. I went back and listened to it, and you apologised. And yet we're a month on, doesn't feel like we've moved on much. That's it. So I won't labour that point, because we got communication as a thing, but that was an action. It didn't happen. The other action, a very simple one, and it was
Can we just sort of hold that and pause for a second? And I have discussed this internally. I mean, Patrick, you know about it, don't you? So we've talked about having it on a Thursday afternoon after Mark's press conference, which is generally about sort of 2-ish. So maybe at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we would reserve 1 hour, because we have to book out the drive.
Ron, I'm going to stop you, because this is actions. Okay, we're going to come on to comms and how we want that to work, because I know you said that, but we don't agree with it. So can we just save that until we get to it? Would you mind? Because there was another action, and that was it was a very positive thing. You'd appointed a physio, and we were all delighted to hear it.
Yeah, he's on a 3-month probationary period. When it's up next week, we'll announce it.
That's not what you said, though.
I said we would announce it. Then
the next day. You said you were going to put it on the website the next day.
Yeah, well, he's on a 3-month probationary period, so I think we should see that.
Well, maybe, but you said one thing and something else happened.
Well, look, Paul, I don't know every fucking thing that goes on in the club from day to day. So
why say it then?
But he is on. We could announce it. He's going to stay. He's doing a very good job. He's a lovely man, we sensibly put him on a probationary period. It could have been for 6 weeks. In actual fact, it was longer.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Anyway, they were the actions. There was one more. You were going to send me a document, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. So let's just ignore that one. It was something to do with development, but I'm not sure I understood it at the time.
I don't recall that.
Okay, I can go back and check. But so then status and short-term plans. You can imagine this is a bit about how the hell do we get out of this, if we get out of it, and what do we do next? I think, Dan, do you want to talk here? I've written sort of a summary of your thoughts, Dan. Do you want to lead this bit? You're on mute.
Yep, give me a second. Sorry, I'm just calling it up.
I can do it if you want, Dan. Is
it just from my email?
Yeah. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
So Dan sent me a couple of emails and a couple of points, and I think this is indicative of many people who've said similar things. So you know, there's 8, 9 games left. You know, how are you approaching that? You do go and talk. I know you give team talk, well, not necessarily team talks, but I know you go and visit the players. You know, we've all seen what's going on the pitch.
Yeah.
Is there any strategy from you at the moment that could make any difference and just get us over the line? That's point one.
Okay, so we can't sign any more players. We've missed the deadline for that. Not that we should be signing more. We renewed 4 contracts in January, signed 5 in January, and another one in February. So obviously those changes were made to give Mark as many options as possible. So he didn't, you know, look behind him on match day and think I'm devoid of options. He's got a number of people at his disposal. Although I have to tell you, we lost the appeals today for Tim Dieng and Sam Hart, which is probably not surprising. And so we've got we'll be without them for, well, Tim for a couple of matches.
Okay, so that's really just a
I don't know quite what you expect me, how to expect me to answer that. I mean, we're not bringing any more players, so we can't bring any more players. We've signed probably more players this year than any club in the Football League in an effort to strengthen the squad. I think to some extent we've been unfortunate with a number of draws when, and talked about to Mark on this last night, out of 6 of the draws, he thinks that we should perhaps have won 4 of them. That would have fundamentally changed. He feels that we should be in for some good luck as opposed to an average position. I'm not going to criticise the players that have been signed, and it's my job to support Mark and support the players. When I haven't been able to go on a couple of occasions recently, I held a Zoom call with all the players in the hotel. Another time I went down there to see the players at 1:30, but couldn't stay for the match because I had to keep my leg elevated. So that was, so I'm in touch with what's going on, but I don't look at the infinitesimal detail of individual contracts and why I didn't know that the period for probation was 3 months rather than 6 weeks. So we don't have a strategy to adopt, but the options open to Mark are enormous. He has an enormous amount of defenders and midfielders. What he doesn't have is attackers. Why Tim Dieng was put up front. We didn't secure Calvin Andrew because he continued to be injured, and that was negotiations going back to October. We didn't secure John Akindi because in the end he decided to stay at Gillingham, even though we'd pushed the boat out a very long way for him. And Mark will confirm just how positive and actually probably too generous, because he would have put him outside every other player that we've got. But anyway, he decided to stay at Gillingham. And although Niall Ranger is a strange animal at times, most of the times, for 10 weeks in training, he had kept his nose clean and been a good guy. And Mark said the minute he steps out of the line, we'll get rid of him. And I certainly would have done. And Ranger knows that. And when he didn't have a Kindy, we thought that was a particularly good option. He brought him on, and he wasn't. When you're out of the game for 3 years, no matter how much training you do, the professional game puts stresses on you that you've never experienced. You can't experience in training. So, and he ruptured his groin. So that's been stitched up, and therefore he's out for the rest of the season. That was in 10 minutes. So that was a big blow, I think. And why Tim's being up front. We've got a number of options with James Olienka back. I think that he'll play as number 10 and probably Sim in front. So we might play 4-4-1-1. I think that's another an option that could work. I think Olienko is one of our probably better, more aggressive goal scorers. Whereas some of them have been not as bold as we want to be. Not playing. Yeah. I mean, Simmer's a great athlete, but he was brought in to play off the shoulder, and he doesn't always do that. But he's very, very capable.
Just before I hand back to Dan, because there's another couple of points he's got, but I just want to read something that was sent to me from one of the exiles, and I think I'm just going to read it as is because I think it kind of sums up the way a lot of people think. So I would ask if the team sit down and listen to the commentary from Radio Essex, Paul Clark and Glenn, etc. Frustration of the tactics and effort comes across big time. I mean, particularly last match, a lot of people strolling around, to my mind, not doing much. These are people who have a lot more experience and knowledge than the vast majority of fans who just want to rant and rave. Do they read Chris Phillips right up in the Echo and social media, which for me sums up concisely what I'd want to say versus the screaming and sobbing I do inside myself? Can the survival miracle of the last gasp Humphrey's goal repeat itself? So, that's how I guess a lot of us are thinking. And in fact, Dan makes that point. Is there anything you can do? And I think you've basically said no.
So is the general consensus that the players are not working for Mark?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't think they looked like they were
strolling around suggests that is what's coming across. I don't think.
Okay, sorry. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. I'm not saying that. I don't detect that necessarily. A couple of games I've thought, have they been paid? Because I did think that. But you confirmed they're all paid, and I'm sure Patrick will confirm in a minute when we ask him whether.
Yep, I will.
There you go.
Confirmed. Yep.
So it's not that. It's something else. They're either not good enough, probably. Unfortunately, or they don't gel. One of the two, I guess. We are where we are. Of course, none of us have got the, including you, Ron. I know you can't do much about it, but we're looking for some glimmer, or is it, or are we down? Do you think we're down? And I know we don't give up until it's mathematically possible, but. Dan's next point.
I'm absolutely not a quitter, and nor is Mark. In fact, none of his management team are either. And there's a great deal of spirit in the squad. There's no doubt about that. No one's given up. I think that there's been a divisive position in the squad at the end of Phil Brown's reign, which was obvious. You could see it from a distance. I'm not sensing that at all with Mark. Quite often, and we did this with Chris Powell, that if you feel, and Chris said to me, I don't know what to do, I can't do anymore. And that was almost like a giving up attitude. And that was on a Sunday, Monday, I saw him and he went on Tuesday. I'm not sensing that with Mark or the boys at all. And actually the impetus of Chris going gave them probably a little bit more of a kick up the arse if they needed it. I don't think we're seeing that with the current group. I think they're all trying hard. Whether they, I can't comment on whether they are good enough. Football is not just about being good enough, is it? Because if it was good enough, you'd think that Liverpool would carry on winning. You would think that Man City would win every game, and so would United.
Yeah, it's all the psyche. But that is something possibly you could change.
Yeah, I think psychologically, I think that probably I can help influence. I mean, I have no intention of sacking Mark. I think that Mark, we need stability in the club. We need stability in the management, and he is a very honest and good person to have around. And I think that every footballer needs a manager that they can trust. The minute they don't trust the manager, and it happens, then they generally down tools a bit. So if the manager tells them something and doesn't follow it through, they won't work for him. I'm not seeing that with Mark Molesley. Some might say, he was 40 a couple of weeks ago. He's young and relatively inexperienced. That may be true, but he's been in football all his life. I think his man management is very good. I think I told you last time that I spoke to Eddie Howe about him, and he said you won't get a more honest person. I can't tell you about his coaching skills, but he is a very honest person, and because he knows that the manager has to be honest, otherwise people won't work for him. And it's the same for me. Mark wouldn't want to work for me if he's only ever come to us. He's never been interviewed by anybody else. There was thoughts that he'd gone to Stevenage for an interview, and that was being spread around the club before he didn't. He came to us, and he came to us through Harry Redknapp.
Okay.
So I think that the only thing I can do is support them psychologically, which I absolutely do. And why, when I couldn't go to the game, I spoke to him on Zoom.
Okay. Scott, sorry, I've just seen a note. Was that on this point? Do you want to come in now?
It was on this point, and let's not beat around the bush here, right? It's a simple trifecta, the situation we are in. A weak manager, players that do not want to sign for us in general, like you say yourself, Ron, you're offering them a generous package and they still don't want to sign, right? What's that based on? Probably rumours that go around between players. And lastly, the players are not good enough. They can try as much as they like and they'll get credit for that. But if they're not good enough, it's all over. So that's long and short of it really, though, isn't it, Ron?
Do you think they try?
I think they try, but they are limited by their ability. And I think their manager is tactically inept. This is the issue. And I know you say about, we want to have stability, but stability is something we haven't had for a long, long time. I can't remember last time the club had any stability.
What do you call stability?
On the field, at least.
Well,
even off it. But
what about the 5 years under Phil Brown? What about 3
what
years
about them?
under? Well, do you think we had stability there?
We're talking about now, though. What's happened in the last 4 years?
But you said ever. You think the club's ever had?
No, I said in a long time.
So we had 6 years under Stilson.
Yeah.
We had 3 years under Paul. We had 5 years under, and at that time, Southend, I think, and you guys are into statistics and you look it up, I think we were the fourth or fifth club to have the longest standing manager. And since Phil's gone, I would certainly have liked Chris Powell to have stayed longer. When Phil did go, you've always got to look at the people who are available to you.
But Ron, can I just cut across you there? Sorry, but it's okay us looking back about what's happened all the time.
But
it matters what's happening now.
But Scott,
now is important.
You said we've never had stability, so I'm asking you a fucking question, aren't I?
No, I said we haven't had stability. And please don't swear at me. Please don't swear.
But now we should stay with our manager. But you're going to say, I don't think we should.
I don't think we should.
No. So somebody else will say, I think we should. So that becomes a decision. And others will say, well, I'm not sure. They're the only options. But I'm saying we should stay with this manager, and that's what we're going to do.
Right. Okay, so that's your decision. You're in charge. It is your decision. I'm saying what it looks like to us fans, a lot of them in good numbers think that he's not the man. He comes across too weak and tactically inept. But there's no need to swear at me.
Paul, let's go through the chair. Is that a view held by all the fans?
I haven't checked, so I don't know. I mean,
well, Eden's shaking his head. Why don't you give your view?
I think it's too early. I think he's struggled enormously with what he started with, and I think what he's been able to do.
Agreed. I think he did
a bit, and I don't think he was dealt a pretty bad hand. You asked me, so I'm just going to finish. He was dealt a pretty bad hand. I don't think he's covered himself in glory, but then lots of managers don't do that at the start. So I guess I'm not as vociferous as Scott.
There's several hands up, which we should.
I think it's pointless getting rid of him now. That's for sure.
I'll just give you my view that I think that the kids that we started with made life difficult for him. It took him. He may have had an answer for that early on, that maybe they were not good enough, but he needed to work with him. He came in only short before the season started, and got to blame me for that one because we had the opportunity to bring in somebody before.
Yeah, we do.
Well, you've got to blame somebody, and I guess you do.
No, that's fine.
And don't worry about it, Paul. You know, I've got broad enough shoulders, but you know, we don't make knee-jerk decisions. All these things are carefully thought about, but not everyone gets it right. But Eden, I did ask you because you were shaking your head. I presume you're not agreeing with Scott, but maybe you do. Why don't you tell us your view? You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, well, no, I don't agree on the manager front. I think the manager is actually one of the few positives of the club, to be honest with you. But in terms of the football, it is what it is. It's going to take a small miracle to stay up. Let's be honest about it. I don't know about everyone else here, but I personally want to know what's in plan for next season, or at least within the next 2 months. Because let's assume we do go down, then what are the steps in place to, you know, revive the club? That's personally what I want.
Just before you answer that, Ron, is that the same as your question, Dan? Because I know you wanted to come back in, and I know you had that on your list anyway. Is that the same question, or do you want to come back
I
on?
think I just wanted to sort of end that point, really. So I'll come back when everyone else has made their points.
So if you could answer Eden, Ron, because that comes up, that's come up from a number of people. So
Well, we've got to see where we are, haven't we? We can't make decisions as to where we might be in 2 months' time if we stay in this league. All I would say is that a number of these players are out of contract. There's some that we would certainly wish to keep. There are others that may just fall away, but more are going to fall away if we are not in League Two.
was your question about playing staff, Eden, or more about money and tickets and stuff?
The club in general, I guess, really.
Yeah.
You know, not even necessarily playing staff. Just, you know, the club. You know, where are we heading? I'm assuming.
Well, we're not going to go bust.
No, but of course not. But what I'm,
Well,
yeah,
no, why not? Why not? Of course not. Loads of clubs got an administration.
well,
I mean,
you
if it
yourself,
wasn't, if I wasn't putting my hand in the pocket next week, no one would be paid. Is that right, Patrick?
Correct.
And how long has that been the case, Patrick?
As long as I can remember, and I've got a pretty good memory.
Yeah. Okay.
So years.
Yeah. Every year.
yeah. I mean, yeah. You said at the
Played
start of
them
this call, you said 23 years it's been. So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, I'm not even. That's not a dig. That's what you said at the start of this call. So yeah, I'm assuming if we get relegated,
the biggest burden, though, Eden, actually started probably in 2008 when we got relegated from the Championship, and then
Yeah, of course,
we had another year in League One. So probably for 15 years, it's been a burden, but it doesn't stop me from supporting it because I love it. Jack, you've had your head out for ages, so sorry, fella.
Yeah, no worries. It's just a quick point. Going back to obviously the point where it says about relegation and stuff like that. Our previous meeting, Ron, we spoke about where you think we would finish, and you said about mid-table roughly. You think our ability-wise could finish.
Yeah.
Obviously, now looking at the table and looking at the scouting, what's been done, and the players who come in, do you reckon the players are good enough, as in the people you brought in, or do you reckon it's just poor running form, or what?
I think it's not right for me to comment on the ability of the players. I don't work with them every day. I see the same results as you do. But I do see a lot of effort from all of them and commitment to the way they respect the management and the club. I don't agree that Mark is weak just because he doesn't shout and scream.
Oh no, I think Mark is a great manager, and I think he's the best manager to have right now at the moment. But what I'm trying to get at, the point of we're going to lose a lot of players when we go down, and the fact that's the fact of the matter. We're going to lose a lot of players because they're going to get contracts with other clubs and stuff like that. But have we, ability-wise, got enough to go back up?
Jack, that's a really interesting point, because if the players are not good enough in some people's eyes and we go down, what makes you think that other clubs will want to attract them?
Well, the players we want to keep will go to other clubs, I reckon. And that's the truth behind it.
I think that's likely if they're not contracted to us, because people do not want to play in the National League. I accept that the National League historically has been difficult to get out of. I mean, Leyton Orient did it in 2 years, but it took Luton a number of years, and others never come back. Our fan base is sufficient to, and the investment is very considerable by comparison of even those two clubs. But it doesn't mean to say that we're guaranteed a return immediately. But I don't accept that we will be there. There's sufficient around us to not go down. If anybody has got the momentum to go down, which wasn't expected, is Colchester, which we might all rejoice at.
I don't subscribe to that tribal nonsense personally, but I know a lot of people do. So,
I get on well with Robert Cowan incredibly well, actually, and I don't wish that on anybody. But in fact, it wouldn't matter which club it was, I wouldn't wish it on them. But if there was choice between us and right, that's what we want, wouldn't it?
Jack, are you done? Can I go back to Dan?
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks. Dan, do you want to make your final point?
Yep, so I think you've answered most of the questions that I had written down off email, but I just wanted to end with something that I sort of right up last night. I was sort of trying to put down my feelings on how I felt about the last few games of the season. Like, we're 9 games away from the conclusion of this season. We're sitting about 6 to 7 points away from safety. And I think we can all agree this is not going to be the easiest of challenges to attempt. But if we've got the fight in the club and in the squad and the ability to fight tooth and nail to avoid relegation, and it'll be a catastrophic relegation if we did go down, and it's looking more and more likely, we shouldn't give up. And I still believe that if we were fighting, if we went into another gear for the last 9 games, I think we could still survive. But that needs to be from the players, and we shouldn't be seen as dead and buried and all this. But a lot of the players, a lot of the fans feel that, especially after Tuesday, the players seem to be a little bit in the mindset of we're as good as down. So
I don't think that's true at all. It's certainly not coming through the management. And it was said to me, because I was in hospital on Tuesday and I couldn't see it. It was said to me that we probably played better with 10 than we did with 11 men. I don't know whether people agree with that. But certainly, I've seen the stats, and I don't read everything into stats, but we seem to quadrupled everything that they were doing in terms of shots, crosses, and opportunities. But we don't score, and the 0-0 or 1-1 scoreline seems to have stuck with us over recent weeks. But we all know that can change in a game. We were unlucky to have Sam sent off, but maybe that gave them a little bit of impetus to work harder. Maybe they couldn't. The formation had to change. That was different for them. But I'm not a quitter, nor is Mark. And as I said earlier, none of the coaching staff are. But you see, we've got a difference of opinion here because not all of you can agree as to what to be done. But if I was to dismiss Mark, that may give an impetus, but short term. But is that the right term strategy for the club? I don't think so.
No, I agree with Eden on his point. I think that Mark's been a fantastic manager for our club, and I think he is one of the only managers that's really threw himself into the challenge of being manager of the club. I think if you look at the likes of Sol Campbell, Kevin Bond, even as far back as Chris Powell to an extent, I think that he's thrown himself into this. And back in November, when we met and Mark was in attendance, he said the day before that he was there until 9 o'clock at the training ground preparing for the next game against Bradford. And that is commitment that I think
you're right, Dan.
Is completely...
He is like that, and he gets absolute support from me in his efforts well. So he and I spoke for an hour and a half last night at 6 o'clock. And he said to me, do you know whether, because he was at home, so I said, do you know where the rest of my staff are? So I said, no. He said they're at the training ground. So it's not just him, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I wish that I could persuade all of you to support the club, and not with an expectation, a false expectation that we're going to stay up and kid ourselves. There's no merit in that. But, you know, Scott's saying, get rid of him. Now, that is, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. I tell you what, I wouldn't do that, even if I was thinking it. Last night, I told the manager that I'm not going to be dismissing him. He will be here during the season, as will all his staff. He needs that support to have the confidence to instill in the players. No one should be disrupting it and pulling a rug from underneath people at this moment. When Chris went, I asked him the question whether he, how he felt. I said, how are you? Just a humane question. How are you, Chris? He said, I don't know what else to do. And he was actually saying to me, I will resign. Well, you know, no manager resigns because they generally get 12 months' money. So I guess he was cautious as to how he would position. I said, have you had enough? And he said, yeah, I have really. So once you get that from manager, I'm not getting that from our man.
Okay, well, we kind of done the past, and I'm very conscious of time. There's an awful lot to get through.
Well, I will stay on. I will stay on if it helps. So just say.
Okay, yeah, that will help. Okay, thanks. Are you done, Dan, on that one?
Just one last thing. I know there's a couple of hands up as well, so I'm eager to get to them too. But you can. I think when a lot of people say Mark should go, this, that, the other, I think you can see where their mindset's coming from, because they just can't see where that next goal is going to come from. Who's going to get that next goal? Who's going to push us on to the next point? And I think that's something that a lack of crowd obviously doesn't help with.
No.
But I think that point needs to be put across, that we're a club that in the past has been described as a club that does not know when it is beaten. That's from Sky Sports, I think. And I think
that was in the playoff final.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But the point is, we're a club that doesn't know it is beaten, and we should be continuing to fight for that tooth and nail to avoid what would be a catastrophic relegation.
And that's why I'm going to Harrogate on Saturday, and why I'll always be behind them.
Sorry, well, there's some other hands.
That's fine. That's my part.
Thanks, Dan. Was there another hand?
There's three.
Kerry, hi.
Kerry,
I saw first. Go on. You're on mute, Kerry.
I'm off mute. Right, first of all, apologies for not having the video on for half of this, but I thought it was a bit rude to eat my dinner whilst on a video show. I want to take it back a little bit. First of all, Ron, I'm hoping you have seen the video that was uploaded on Copper today, which I've had a hand in and you were invited to partake in, which I think, and the feedback I'm certainly getting is I think it hits the feelings of this supporter base on the head, that we are desperate for some change. We are desperate for something positive. Things have been, frankly, not very good since Phil Brown went. And it's hard being a Southend fan at the moment. You know, I'm assuming you have seen it. The things in there are true. We do get pitied and ridiculed. The town gets pitied and ridiculed because of the football team. So there is a consensus of a view that, without mentioning managers or players, and, you know, we've heard the stories of why Chris Power left, and we all love Chris. And we've heard the stories of Simon Cox, and he was a good player. And we all know about Luke Hyam and the others that came and were injured and took money and, frankly, should have been left nowhere near the club. What we want is a future. What we want is an understanding that, you know, if we do go down, and I'm honest with you, most of us think it's an absolute given, because we're not going to get out of this by drawing 0-0 every week or hoping for a penalty. We're not scoring goals. The feedback I've got, and I'm happy to share it all with you, is all, yeah, that's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we were talking about. So if we're talking about not getting supporters clubs together and getting people disagreeing, yeah, people will disagree on whether we should be playing Nile Ranger or whether we should have been allowed near the club, or they'll disagree about onions on burgers and all the other debates that we have. The one thing that's bringing everyone together is is we're in a mess and we need to get out of the mess. And as things stand, you're the man who can get us out of the mess. And we'd like to help you get us out of the mess, but we're not seeing that. We're not seeing the positivity. We're just seeing repeated mistakes, bad mistakes.
So we're not in a mess.
Frankly, we are. We're 23rd.
I'm qualifying that.
Right,
We're not in a mess off the field. We are not winning on the field.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what dictates all your opinions.
Yeah.
What matters?
What dictates our opinions is that whichever way you shake it, when we go into that football ground, we part with 20 quid or whatever the season ticket costs, 380 quid. And for the last 2 years, and for this season, when we've unfortunately not been allowed to be on grounds, it's been horrible. And actually, what happens on the pitch is important. At the end of the day, you give me a league team next season, I don't worry about the ground. Most people will agree with you. The ground will be lovely. There's no point if we're in a conference. You ain't going to fill it. You're going to have a lovely, brand new, shiny stadium, and you're going to have the away support from Altrincham coming down. It's not sustainable. The problem is you've got to get it on the pitch. If it ain't on the pitch, people will go away. They'll find other things to do. And next season's going to be a real difficult thing because people have got used to not going to football on Saturday. And if actually they're faced with, oh, I'll spend some time with the wife and kids, I'll go down the park, I've not been able to go out properly, or do I go and watch the opening game of the season against Weymouth, I'm fairly sure we might struggle to get bums on seats. And I'm not overly sure you pick up that. When I first met you a year ago, I asked you, will we have a football club at Sport next year? And you didn't know how to answer it. You looked at me like I was insane. I know, okay, but it hasn't changed. It's not changed.
I don't recall that, but I would never have not given you an answer. Because
no, you gave me an answer, but it wasn't.
What answer did I give you? Because it would have been of course.
We had it was of course. We had a long discussion about when did we first started watching the game, which we always do. We went around the houses a bit, and I had to explain how people were feeling about a team that was bottom of what was in the third tier, and how important it was that we rectified those mistakes. And if we were going next season, that we wouldn't be in the exact position that we're in today. And we are, and it's hurting an awful lot of people. And Paul's already mentioned Save Our Southend.
Gary,
hang on.
It's hurting everybody, isn't it?
Pardon? It's hurting everybody. I'm not saying it's not hurting you.
I didn't say that. I said it's hurting everybody on this screen, and a great deal. Thousands of people. It hurts. But it's not always so simple as changing the manager, changing the footballers. Under Chris Powell, he actually had a lot of bad luck.
Yeah, of course. I must admit, I said I've not actually mentioned the manager. I don't think the manager's the problem. I think the manager is playing poker with a 2, a 5, and a 7. I don't know how good he is or how bad he is because I don't think he's been on a level playing field because we're still worrying about what happened last season, the year before, and making up for those errors. What we want is a coherent transfer policy. Let's have players that we buy that actually can play 15 games off the bat without being injured. You read between the lines. We might have some good players, but Millis, was he injured when he came? He didn't play. Mack has been in and out, was injured when he came. Niall came in, injured. I suspect probably not match fit. Ricky Holmes clearly isn't match fit. Ollie Anker is injured. Is he going to come back on Saturday? Will he be match fit?
He played on Tuesday, so he'll be there Saturday.
It's one after the other. One after the other.
Well, I can answer all those things. So we knew that Macca would not play every match, but his influences are very good off the pitch. Ricky Holmes is not getting match fit. He's probably getting to a certain age where he will not be running like you've accustomed to seeing when he was at Charlton and others.
He sits on the bench, doesn't actually do any running.
But he did play at Northampton, so he was probably as match fit he was going to be. Niall Ranger was always a risk, but then it was a risk that we were managing. Trying to get someone back from not playing for 3 years is difficult. I think the greater concern people so many injuries from cruciate tears and the likes, and losing Ralph was a blow. Harry Lennon as a blow. He won't be back for the rest of the year. Sean doesn't play in left berth. He's right-footed, but he's done a grand job, I think, for a young man. If you say coherent recruitment policy, what makes you think that it is not coherent?
What makes you think it is?
Because the amount of research I see that we do in individual players before we sign them.
If I was honest with you, if my job,
I hope you are.
I know I am being honest with you. There's no need to lie. We want the best for everybody. If in my job, my research brought me players like Liam Ridgewell, and brought me players like Luke Hyam, and brought me the other litany of players that have come on, played a few games and have got injured or haven't been fit when we bought them, I would probably be looking for another employer.
Luke Hyam, when Chris signed him, he said, if we get Luke Hyam, we'll have the best midfield in the league.
Yep, it was a wages thief. That was your words, and I agree with you. But we should have had due diligence. Anyone on this call with a Wikipedia check would have said that boy's got an injury problem. We signed him.
As for Ridgewell,
Kiernan's another one, and we know the background story to Kiernan. I don't know, who pulled the wool over your eyes. Anyone at Rangers could have told you, A, is an injury problem, and C, ain't very good. And we paid how much for him for 2 games?
So Kiernan, Phil Brown obviously signed Kiernan. Kiernan was on 7,500 Rangers. He came at 3,750 with us. One of our highest paid players, not quite the highest paid player, but right at the top. And Phil Brown was really excited by him. But we all know the history there.
But we're going back into.
But you're asking this question. I'm trying to answer individuals. And those policies, of course, have been under the guise of different managers.
Yeah, and I must admit, I'm falling into the trap of talking about what used to happen, and what we want to be talking about is what is happening. Paul's alluded to the Save Our Southend group, which Scott is leading. There's a few of us on here. I'm on it as well. I don't like the term protest group. I want to make it clear we're not a protest group.
Change that. That's my fault. Apologies.
That's fine. There's no criticism, Paul. We're working together with people for what we believe to be the best for the club. We're a lobbying group. We're going to be lobbying. We're going to be hopefully taking some positive actions. But I just wanted to make it clear that we're not a protest group. We've got nowhere to protest for a starter because we can't go to games. But we're a lobbying group, and we're going to be a bit loud, and we're going to do things a bit differently. But we want the best for this football club. And we can get the best for this football club if there's some transparency from the top. We've got a series of questions we'd like to ask, and I'll hand over to Scott when the time's right to do that, that are a bit hard-hitting and a bit punchy, but we need to understand where we are.
Kerry,
okay, should we ask them for you?
Kerry, I appreciate your honesty.
I'm getting a bit ranty, and I don't mean to be.
No, you're not. Look, it's passion. We're all passionate about the football. We all want the best, but there's no silver bullet.
No, I'm glad.
And unfortunately, you're going to have to live with that one, because until we get to the end of the season, I can't change fuck all.
Yeah, no. Do you know what? We know that. But I tell you what, if it ain't changed this time next year, and we're sitting looking at the Conference South, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Well,
have you seen any conference football lately?
No, I don't watch it.
I think maybe you want to get it on BT Sports. We'll struggle at that level.
I'm very conscious we're spending.
Sorry, I've overgone.
No, that's fine. No complaints. I'm just, Ron did say now we're at the hour. He's going to start. That's great. There's an awful lot left to cover.
Well, let's give it another hour then, Paul, because I'll stay here as long as it takes. Because
Ron,
because all I want, actually, I don't want protests, because all that will do is disintegrate the club. I mean, I know you put your 20 quid a week or £300 or £400 a year in. If I don't give Patrick £130,000 next week and every month, there won't be a football club.
Ron.
Well, this is something we'll come on to. Jack, sorry.
One point I want to make. You're talking about passion and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. Some players are showing passion and stuff, but with a team like this, do you really think that's passion? Half of them are on loan, Ron. So half of them are going back to normal clubs after this.
So there's a limit to how many loan players you can have.
But Ron, these players are going to go back and be fine. They're not going to go down with us, are they?
But not half are on loan. Let's
Yeah, but
get
they're
the-
not going to go
let's
down
get
with us.
back to
This
not
is the point
even
we're making.
10%.
Let's talk about the future, not the
Not
past.
even
This is
10.
about the future.
Half is 50%. Not
This
even
is a-
10% have been on loan.
Well, this is about the future, Ron, of the club. And if passion is proper passion, wearing that sleeve on the shirt, playing for the club, not just because you're on loan getting a wage bill, it's playing for the club. And right now they're not doing that.
Who
And
in
something needs to change.
Can we?
Do you think James Olienka's not trying?
I'm not saying I'm not naming certain players or not, but
Why not?
certain players
Why
are
not?
not.
We're being honest, Jay.
Well, listen,
Jack,
listen.
Tell me what you think.
Well, truthfully, I don't think half the team's good enough.
But
I think
they're
there
not on
needs to be a
loan, are
proper change. You said to us you're going to get some players in and stuff like that. You said we're going to get mid-table and stuff. This isn't happening at the minute, Ron, is it?
Well, we certainly got players in, didn't we?
Yeah,
Do
but
you
not some of the players you said you're going to get in.
Well, sorry, I didn't name players.
No, but you
not
said
nobody
positions.
signed,
You
it's down
didn't
to
get the
manager.
positions you wanted at the time, did you? You said to us you're going to get some. You said you could get a striker and 2 defenders, and you didn't get that at the time.
Well, actually, we've ended up with getting more people than that. We didn't get the strikers that we wanted. No, we didn't. No, but it's not through it's not through not trying. Jack, you can't pick up a telephone and say, "I want you," because that player's got a decision whether he wants to come to you.
No, I get that, but what I mean is we need to show a bit of passion when we play the games. I think the players don't see what it's doing to the fans. You've got fans who are.
Oh, they do. They do.
Do they really? Ron?
They do because.
Well,
there's
why are
gonna
they
be
not
a
playing like they do then?
Because there's going to be a limitation on over 21 players to 20 next year. It's currently 22. When it gets limited to 20, which it will be, many footballers will be out of contract and they won't get another job. So absolutely, they understand and they care as a consequence.
Well,
I mean,
I don't say
I
I
don't
don't
know I don't know what you do for a living, but whatever you do, if there was a limited number of places for what you do, you'd try harder, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would.
Well,
But
that's what
also as well, you play with a bit of passion. And
But
right
like-
now, some of these players don't look like they're doing that. And I think that needs to be stepped up.
A little earlier, that wasn't the view been expressed by somebody else. So you can see it's quite difficult for me as chairman to say, well, you know, Jack thinks they don't try. Somebody else, Eden, thinks they do try. You know,
Well,
that's what you're going to get.
So
isn't
I
it?
think
Diverse views.
but I think we should move on because it is very subjective. This, and when we could.
Can I just comment on the Jacob
Okay.
Mellis? He wasn't match fit when he came to us. We knew it would probably take a month to get him up to speed, and it took us 6 weeks.
Okay, thanks. So there's two really key areas left to cover, and the first one's communication, Ron, which we just briefly touched on.
Yeah, I
we've got-
apologise for that, Paul. We can
thoughts on that. But just
remedy that.
Just before we go onto that, there's been some rumours about National League membership. I have not, by asking the people spreading the rumours, I haven't got anything in detail, and I have also spoken to the FSA and have read the rules, and I don't see any reason why we would not gain membership to the National League. However, those rumours continue, and I think I wouldn't mind you just spending a second on that, and then I think Scott may want to ask a question related to this.
Scott?
When we go down, which we all think we're going to and hope we don't, are we automatically in the National League, or is there anything that will prevent us entry?
I can't think of anything can prevent us entry. Why would that be?
I don't know, but the rumours persist. I'd like to squash them.
Where would we go?
Well, there's a good question, and I'm sure we'll come on to that. Scott, so your questions included a very specific point on this. Do you want to raise that?
Yeah, it's just what is the requirements from a financial perspective to qualify to be able to play the National League? They have their own system, but separate from the Football League. Would we pass that?
I can't imagine they're more stringent than being in the Football League.
Right.
So
So you're confident that if we go down, hopefully we don't, but if we do, there'll be no issues regarding our being accepted into the league below.
I've got no concerns over that, but Patrick, make a call tomorrow just to confirm it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Jamie, sorry, you had your hand up. I missed it.
It was about a previous point, but on that, shouldn't we should know, shouldn't we, what the requirements are next season to qualify for the National League? Isn't one of them the accounts being published, and they haven't been published
Well,
yet?
2 come up, 2 go down. I think that's the only qualification one actually needs. But if it was,
No, I think you missed what Jamie
if
said
it's a
there.
financial qualification, then
Well, I believe one of them is the publication of the accounts, and they haven't been published yet.
Really
They-
quite wrong, aren't they?
yeah, well, I imagine that the accounts for non-league clubs are
Simpler.
less stringent now when you've got a complex group. But yeah, but I guess the audit will be finished within April. Patrick, you think?
Audits will be finished soon. COVID and that's just delayed things, unfortunately.
Well, we are a year late, aren't we, though? Yeah?
Yep. And we've got extension for it from Companies House because
Okay,
Companies
okay.
House understand everybody's in this unfortunate, unforeseen situation with the pandemic.
It's just more negatives than positives, though. Why does it take any longer? It's just the same values, just same holes, isn't it? Just different values. I don't really understand why we have this every time, personally. We're always far late, don't we? Always.
No, we don't.
Wow.
We've been early until this last set. 2017, 2018 were all nicely on time if you look at Companies House, and we had AGM and that, but unfortunately the pandemic has caused problems.
I stand corrected. You have been involved more recently, and I probably have gone over the top there. But yeah. But
look, whatever the requirements are,
maybe not in the
we
last
will. Sorry, Paul. Whatever the requirements are, we will meet those requirements. We've always met the Football League requirements. We've been in close contact with the Football League, explaining the difficulty of getting the auditors out and things like that. And you know, we haven't just left things.
Okay.
That I'd like to assure people of. So.
Also, Patrick, I think it's fair to say that the auditors generally come to the premises and like to spend time with staff and accounting and then ferreting around in the background, which is not so readily available to them when we're in lockdown.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, thanks.
We're doing remote auditing, and I'm having to dig out invoices and things like that normally you'd get an audit clerk to dig out for you. So it is a slightly different experience doing an audit under these circumstances.
Okay, we touched last time on the fact that there was. I understand how difficult it must be, but nevertheless, lots of people here have partied with lots of money, and that money hasn't accrued any particular, or not the value we expected when we partied with it, I guess. Plus, there's probably. In fact, I'm aware of a particular issue, which the guy didn't particularly want me to bring up, but I will anyway, where some away tickets, I think, have been purchased and there's been no refund. And we had this last year with Ipswich, and I believe it's happened again this year. There's a couple of points here I'd want to make. You know, I 100% accept how hard it is. Talk to us about it. Don't just ignore it, because fans...
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? On one hand, I get asked to we fund season cards and whatever's been done, which I know you support. And yet,
no, I'm not sure that's true. What I support is the transparency of communication of it. I actually wouldn't ask for mine back. I'd said that last time, and I wouldn't. But I think some people would.
All right. So some people want them back. Other people want investment in the club.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And then the investment we make in the players isn't good enough. So
no, I understand.
So I invested another £25,000 in the January window to help support the club. And what
Bert down the pub doesn't care about that. What he cares about,
I know.
Nice to him.
I know they don't care, and that's why my suggestion of regular meetings is actually like shooting the manager of the club in the fucking foot, because you'll be on there all day saying different things and no one will ever please all of you. So we'll do that, and I'm happy to do that, but it'll be a committee of people giving different views, whether it's the manager, Ricky Duncan, Craig, or whether it be Patrick, Reese, or others. Will give because transparency is never our concern. We'll give it to you, but you won't agree because you all think you can run the club better than me. And maybe
Well,
maybe that's true, but if you want
that
you
isn't
will
what I'm,
need to put your hands in your pockets, not ask for you to get money back.
isn't what I'm trying to say, Ron. What I'm trying to say is there are various people with different views. You're not making any comment about it. Nothing. There's been no discussion whatsoever.
Well, Paul, but give
There's
me
been
some
discussion
credit.
here, but
Paul,
there's
give me
lots
some
of
credit. I'm coming onto this forum. I promoted meeting today. I'm promoting meeting on a regular basis once a fortnight for an hour.
I'm talking about a very specific point, and that is you have some supporters' money, and you're not making any statement about it. All you're saying is,
so what's the question?
Some people will want some money back. Some people won't. You need a strategy for it.
If they want it back, they can have it back. There you go. Done.
Okay. Well, that's good. Thanks. I'll admit that. Fine.
But don't those same people come moaning when we're not invested in the football club. So they get the money back.
Strategy should not be what you just said, because
no, it doesn't matter. But you cannot have it always, can you? You can't say, "Oh, put another £1 million in, please, Ron." And it's more than that this year. It doesn't work. You can't keep. You can't keep.
I completely understand the quandary, Ron. No, we're not. That's not what's happening. What I'm saying is, you need a strategy to deal with people who want their money back. And you haven't got one. You just shouted out, right? They can all have their money back. That's not true.
Well, they can. If they want it back, they can have it back. And but that wouldn't be true fans, would it? In sport,
well, that's not what you want, though. That's not what you want. That's not a strategy. That's a knee-jerk reaction.
Well, the strategy is that no one's asked. Has anyone asked for their money back? Patrick, do you know?
I haven't had any.
I don't know of one person that's asked me for their money back.
Well,
not one person.
Oh yeah, you continue to ignore it, Ron. If you think that's a good strategy, I'm not.
Paul, I haven't had any.
No, we've done this one. We've done it.
So, but
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Patrick,
I haven't had a single request for a refund.
Patrick, no.
Whether you've had that or not is irrelevant to my mind. I might be wrong, but I suspect there'll be a lot of people who actually would like to know what's happening to their money, particularly in a few months when we're relegated and you quite like their season ticket money for next year.
But you asked that on the last call. You said, well, you're about to ask for season ticket money. I said, no, we're not. And the reason I said that is because we don't know what league we're in.
No,
yes,
I know that.
we would welcome season ticket money because someone has to pay the wages.
Yeah.
And the thought, the ridiculous thought, I don't know where this came from, that I want to run the club down so I can build more houses on the stadium site could not be further from my mind. Why would I be invested in the football club month on month and buy new players in January if I wanted to kill it? I would have left the kids in there as who started the season, wouldn't I?
Yes, I don't believe you're doing that, Ron. We've had this conversation before as well, so I don't think that's the case. But
all right. So Patrick, I asked Reece to be on the call as well today, but he couldn't make it because it came too late. Speak to Reece tomorrow, Monday, and we'll agree a strategy for the refund of money. And what we actually said internally is that we would prefer that they be offset it against next month's season tickets.
That's the strategy. That's what we want to hear, not something thrown out in a drop.
Sorry, I don't mean to throw it out, but you look, as I said, if you could all agree as one voice, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Because we could either agree to disagree, or we could work harmoniously for the benefit of the football club.
Yeah, exactly. And we've drifted into comms, and I think that's what we all here want, and I think we can help with that, and that's been part of the frustration.
But we absolutely want the same, Paul. I mean, I want the same as you. It would be a monumental failure for me to be in the National League. Monumental. And if that's what happens, then I won't give up, but it will be disastrous. And I never thought we'd be in this position. I thought, as Jack said earlier, probably a mid-table team, and probably our results in recent times, even with a number of draws, is probably mid-table performance. It was playoff performance, and when we went 6 games. I think we drew a couple, won 4, and people thought, oh, can we make the playoffs? Even Gary Lockett said to me, we could perhaps get into the playoffs. Now it's perhaps a little bit dreamland. It was only around the Christmas time, wasn't it? But then we started losing again. We thought if we strengthened the squad, as we'd have the opportunity to do in January, maybe we'll give it the impetus to get back up. But we haven't. I mean, and people were saying to me, sign Ricky Holmes, sign Ricky Holmes. Well, actually, Ricky Holmes was a good player, still got great capability, but you've got to look at some people just go off the boil a little bit. I hope that it comes back with him. So I signed him, and now I get criticised for signing him. But that same person said he's not on this, and I wouldn't mind if he was. Said to me at the weekend, pull the trigger, Ron. Everyone wants Mosley to go. Get rid of him. Pull the trigger. Do it now. Don't be shy. Jesus Christ, the diverse views I get is impossible. So, I mean, I'm happy to take the general consensus, providing it's sensible. And I respect all fans and their passion. And I'm it too. Don't think it's not, because it's my life. And if we fail to stay up, it will be a disaster. But it won't stop us investing to get back up as soon as we can.
Thanks for that, Ron. That's good to hear that, particularly, and I agree with plenty of it as well.
There's one other view that I think everyone should take on board as well. That getting relegated into the National League, if you've got the ambition to get back up, is just a transient moment. It might happen, but don't look at it as a moment in time and it's the future. It's just that we might go down, we might go up. It's a bit like going down from League One to League Two. I thought, wrongly, that we would be vying for the playoffs in League Two automatically, but we're not. And some of those people, and Luke Hyam has got his own problems, but I didn't want to keep Luke Hyam. I mean, and I actually didn't want Sam Manton either. It's not people we weren't going to keep those players, because actually I don't think that. Actually, I think it's been proven they've virtually gone out of football. I mean, Sam was 9 leagues down or somewhere. I can't remember who he's playing for. But it's not easy for, Jack, you said, they'll get another job. They won't get another job. You look, Patrick, you may know the stats, but something like 600 players are going to be out of contract this year. They're probably, I don't know what they're doing, sweeping the roads, laying bricks. I don't know what they're doing. School teachers, maybe.
Let's move on, right? It's 15:15 and there's still 2 key things to get through. On the agenda, it's comms. Scott, would you want to swap order and do SOS first, or are you happy to?
It's entirely up to you.
Okay. On the comms side, Ron, you made some suggestions, and we're very pleased that you can make this call, particularly today with what's happened to you in the last couple of days. And you suggested going forward a meeting of types and a surgery. And we said last time we liked it, and we still like it. There are some fundamental problems with the timing, though. Most of us find 4 o'clock a problem. I could probably do it occasionally, but most people have been quite negative about that. So we'd like you to reconsider that through 6 o'clock makes more sense. Fortnightly.
I see that's a problem. Yeah.
Fortnightly probably makes sense again. If you want to do this and give it a go and get started, that's fine, and we can always change it. It doesn't have to be fixed, does it? But I would like to see your.
I think weekly surgery is probably too soon. I think fortnightly is actually quite quick. A month is almost too long. We could do it weekly, but look, you choose. And I agree that it might be convenient for me and others. So Reese had family commitments as to why he couldn't make 6 o'clock today. I only asked him at 4 o'clock. Otherwise, he might have changed it. I agree. But none of us want it. Look, I'm pretty much 24/7, so it does eat into my family life. Of course, it has done always. But I have a forgiving family, so I agree that 6 o'clock is probably more convenient. I think we'd have to make it sharp for 1 hour, and and I've got to be respectful of the out of office time for the other people who'll be on the call, because it won't always be me.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we could probably, if the gang agree, we could probably not park this one, but maybe deal with this one over email with ideas and things. Then we can formulate, and then we could get on to the other subject. But I would just like to say, many people have asked could we live stream, and they asked if we could live stream. We had no idea to make that work in the short time that we were asked. But I think going forward, that is something we want to do.
That's a good idea. I think it's a very good
Okay,
idea.
that's good. And I think
Look, I welcome that, Paul.
Okay, good.
If we can get to a wider audience and have these open debates, even though we won't agree.
Yeah.
Scott, I'm not even sure I'll come in your taxi anymore now. Might just do. But joking
It's
apart,
double now.
it always was. I would think it's a good idea, because they'll get a diverse view from us too, and a different view, not just from me and Patrick or somebody in commercial, but from Ricky as well. Ricky's got strong views on things. Of course, Mark has, and maybe we'll get people from medics come on from time to time and talk about that, because it's not all negative. There's a lot in this football club that's fantastically positive. I can tell you.
Do you see you kind of announcing what you might want to talk about, and then whoever wants to turn up goes on it, or do you want...
No, other way around, I think. I think it's better the agenda's set by the fans. Okay. You or the committee, whoever you appoint, decide how many of those questions can be asked and answered within the hour properly, and then you either live stream it for those who can watch it at the time, or you the other, and that's why I didn't come back, because it was structure we were thinking about, and then somebody minutes that. But if people are on it, then it doesn't need to be minuted. They can see it. But I think having some set questions that you give us perhaps 72 hours in advance of what they're going to be, and then we can have the appropriate people there to answer them.
Any questions?
It was only the structure. I'm sorry. I'm not ill. I might have torn an artery, but I'm not ill. It's just getting in the way a bit.
Could I take any
probably, if anything, if I appear short-tempered, it's probably because I've got this perpetual headache. And it won't go away until the after heals. So I've got to find a remedy. But I think I'd absolutely welcome the communication on a regular basis with everybody, and live stream is a fantastic idea. And if we can do that to 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people, then why not?
Yeah, perfect.
And we would be one of the first clubs to do that for them. Maybe it'll catch on with others, but we've got nothing to hide. We've got a good team, a good management team. We have made the team on the pitch. Maybe on occasions could do better, but maybe some of them are playing at the best of their ability right now. It takes a team to win a game of football, and if you've got 8 people playing well and 3 not playing at their best, then of course, as I said before, you're only good as your weakest link. And that's not being a criticism, because I think we've got a great group of people, and I do think Mark is the right person to head it up as well.
Okay, reiterating a point. Yeah. Just on the comm side, is there any...
Because I don't want him to be under pressure. It's not helpful when you guys, you can have a go at me, and I don't want you to, but if you do, then I can respond, and I'll respond openly and honestly to you. But don't have a go at your manager, because all you can do is depress him and send, he won't read the Echo, Chris, so don't write anything lousy about him, because it's not the way to get this team out of the doldrums. You should be writing positives, and all of you should be, because otherwise you're just going to be crushing the people who are actually whose job it is to get them out of it.
So on that point, is there anything we can do then? Because the trust were planning to collect positive messages to feed to the players prior to the game, and then we dropped it on the back of an appalling performance a couple of weeks back on a Tuesday.
Dan
at the same point, I think you sent that to me, Dan, didn't you? I meant to say we were interested.
That's right.
Andy Leader was going to set all that up, but we were all just so depressed after it. We thought, well, everyone would take the piss out of us if we put something like that out after that performance. But anyway, is that something that would help? Would the players appreciate us being involved in some way?
Oh, of course. I mean, they don't want people thinking that they don't have the ability. Most people know what their level is, but they would want to be supported.
Okay, so maybe we should take that away as a thought amongst ourselves.
If you were there and chanting and booing, they wouldn't raise their game. It would crush some of them.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's not the way. You know, that's the beauty of Mark. He knows how to handle people, and he knows when to bollock them, and he knows when to talk to them in a different manner.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. Well, maybe we'll take
It's really
as a thought amongst us.
It's really important because, you know, the skill sets for the manager I've seen over the years that are very, very different. I mean, Steve Tilson is still in touch with me quite on a regular basis, actually. And he was almost like one of the players. Paul was probably more in a managerial role at times, but Steve, that's his way. He's a nice guy. He got the best out of them by perhaps understanding them and being one of them at times. But it also, you know, he could also tell them off. But life has changed over the years, isn't it? You know, so people expect to be given more. So over a period of, say, 10, 15 years since Steve was around, attitudes have changed with the players as well. And I think they need perhaps looking after more. I mean, some of these kids are they're in football at 12, 13 and know no other life. And they're looked after, not at our level, but certainly at Championship and Premiership level. Look, I'm all for transparency and an open forum on a regular basis.
Yeah, okay.
I'll get my message across. You may not agree with me, but you'll have your say and you'll get your answers. So we can do that. Patrick, can you talk to me Monday on our regular call? Make sure that I get that out because
Yes.
I've got the paper. I just need to polish it up and I'll send it to Paul.
All right, thanks.
And we want you to be the conduit, Paul, because I can't write to everybody. Are you happy with that? And Trimmers Trust distribute it?
I am personally, but there's other people represented here, so we can.
But I think it's right that the biggest supporter group. I mean, you can't keep having sort of factions of different groups. I mean, you're not going to say the same things, but you probably want the same. You probably want the same outcome, and that's success for the football club. And if that's the common denominator, why don't you just get together and be one voice or a similar voice? But we could only.
Well, we're not going to have the same view on a manager or a player's performance. That's for sure.
Jack, come on, you're shaking your head. Come on, you're
in terms of. Sorry, right. In terms of getting together, here we are. So we are together. We won't necessarily agree. People won't agree with what I say, and I won't agree necessarily with it. But we are together here, and we're at least.
Well, but there's another end of the spectrum. There's you, and I suspect Jack is another one. Jack, tell us what you're thinking, because you're shaking your head. I want to know.
We just want the truth, Ron, and obviously we are getting this in the meetings and stuff like that. But I think the majority of the fans and who have joined the SOS page as well want answers, Ron. They don't want all this constant.
But you're not saying anything, are you?
Well,
look, you're 17 years old. When you're 21, 25, you'll think, look,
Ron,
back at this.
I think Scott will know what.
You don't know. You think you want the answers, but when you're told the answers to the question, you don't want to believe it, so you don't.
No, it's not that. It's not that. Look, I'm coming from a younger generation here, looking on, and for me looking on, it looks like 10 years' time, this club might not be here. And truthfully, that's the point. I've come watching Southend since I was about 5 years old, watching Southend with my dad and stuff like that. And watching this club just dissolve in front of us is hurting the fans. If you look on social media and stuff like that and see what these actual fans look and see, it's hurting them, Ron. This is not something that can just be left alone. This is something where
So what do you want to do?
We need change.
Well, tell us what change you want. Go on.
Well, it starts from the pitch, because the pitch is the main problem, isn't it? Where do you get the points from? Where it dissolves all the problems? The pitch. So the players are not on the pitch who are playing well. We need to get new ones in. We need to change it up. If it's not coming from there, we need to change the manager. If it's not coming from there, then we need to change in the other strategies of the club.
How frequently do you think you can do that, Jack?
Well, from the past, we have done it quite regularly as well. So
no, we haven't.
Players
we
have
haven't.
changed quite a bit. Players have changed quite a
Come
bit.
on, you're 17 for 12 years. You've watched it. Phil Brown was here. I've said it before. For 5 years. Paul for 3 years. Tilly for 6 years. That's not changing it. You keep changing things, you create instability in a club. I mean, when Chris Powell came, the majority of people thought, what a great idea. 300 games with the club, a star England player, many things about Chris are very, very likeable. But then poor Chris got vilified when he didn't win on the pitch. He didn't win on the pitch for a host of reasons, and many of which he either had players that became injured, or he signed players that were injured. But that was his decision. You know, it's not as if we don't carry out detailed medical for every single player that we sign. We don't just take a flyer, and it didn't work out for him. And I think that was sad, because actually he had about 51% success rate, but it could have been 60% if it wasn't for a couple of draws. But then he still lost it. So he started with a team. The period he came in January and taken over Phil Brown. The rest of the season, he was great. When he got rid of the people who are actually strong characters, which he didn't want around him, including Anton Ferdinand, he signed his own players, some of which were probably softies. When maybe he didn't give them a hard time. And that's why he signed them. But they failed for him. Sometimes you need a bit of grit around. Maybe right now, people say, well, you signed Maka. Well, Maka's got a bit of grit, and I like that. And he's a leader off the field. So even when he's not playing, he will be there. He'll travel with the team to be there and support them. And I champion that every time. I'm disappointed to lose Tim today, because I think that, you know, he's another leader and he wants to win. It's not as simple as sometimes you make out, say, oh, it's on the field, change it. If you were in charge of this and you want that player and you want to go and change it, first of all, you'd have to have a lot of money, and they may not want to come. They may not want to support the manager. There's a whole host of reasons why people don't go to clubs. You can't just secure them. And then the window changes, and all those expectations and hopes that you put your money on fail. Then, Jack, they look at you and say, what an idiot. Fancy not getting the people you told us you're going to get. Well, it isn't that easy, son. So just bear that in mind. And if you ever have the luxury, and it is probably one of the privileges of my job of actually speaking to people like you, in this position, you'll see a very different side of the coin. And by this constant communication with people, fortnightly, or how often we all agree we're going to do it, and the transparency, you will learn some of the perils of managing a football club.
So I think we've established that we can't make any changes for the rest of the season anyway. So
we can't, because the window's closed.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't. Whilst Jack's point is valid, absolutely valid in terms of if we started a bit earlier, maybe we can do nothing about that. Wait, and I don't think age is not a barrier to an opinion. And I think you're a bit condescending there, Ron. So just think we should just move on to the next one. And
it's not condescending. It's trying to educate somebody as to the perils.
Well, that is condescending. So I believe that sounded condescending personally.
Well, it might have done. I'm sorry if that came across that way. It's not the intention. But we're trying.
Okay,
maybe we haven't got it right. 51.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
51 players have come through the event of the field to play this year. That is ridiculous. We shouldn't. That shouldn't be the case. But probably
I agree.
In the early stages, the first 14 games when we got 5 points, maybe 10 of those shouldn't have been in the running, maybe even 12, and they're not. And they're not any longer.
Sorry to butt in here and be brash, but we're getting drawn into this pub talk of, you know, should the manager be sacked? Should he play with 5 strikers? Should he go 4-4-2? Because that answers most questions.
Definitely 2 up front.
We're getting drawn into that. What I believe that a lot of us here want to know is is what is happening next season, regardless of what league we're in. Do we have any plans for League Two? Do we have any contingency plans for the National League? You know, what is the plan for next season? Because we can all talk about off the pitch in the pub, or on the pitch or in the pub, but what is in place for next season?
Well, you can't make a decision on next season until you know where you are.
You can have plans.
We'll have plenty of time to make that decision in the close season, as to depending on where we are. But for me, it would always be success. If we are unfortunately getting to the National League, then it'll be wanting to get out as quick as possible. But that's not an easy task. Everyone keeps telling me that. I'm beginning to believe them. And as regards in League Two, then our ambition will be to get out of League Two.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But, you know, in terms of, so if we do go to the National League, you know, are there any non-playing staff? Are they going to lose their jobs? Is the management team going to have to be smaller? You know, has that been discussed yet or planned? Or
I think one of the biggest issues, and it's a good point, Eden, is that the sponsorship for the financial support for the academy, which doesn't cover all the costs by a long chalk, will continue for a year and a half. So for those clubs to do get relegated, there is a sort of a parachute arrangement to allow them to get back up, because the investment in youth in Southend United is very significant. And I personally would want to continue that. Many clubs, including Brentford, stopped it a couple of years ago because they felt that it wasn't paying dividends. Many clubs do not think it's paying dividends. And you know what, we're not wishing ills on Colchester per se, but of course that has been their strategy, playing the kids coming into the league, and sometimes, you know, the immaturity of youth doesn't pay dividends when you come under pressure, and you come under pressure when you're facing relegation, and maybe that's what they're finding.
I think it's time to hand over to Scott, unless anybody objects. Okay, that's good. Scott, do you want to raise anything that's not been raised before?
Yeah, Ron, this isn't personal in any way.
I bet it is.
I'm going to raise. It's not. It's not. Let's be
That's what
professional.
everyone says when they start with a question like that. It's not personal, but
Well, it's about personalities then. At the end of the day, right, what I want to speak about is the CEO, right? What I've just heard, right, through this discussion we've had on here, you've sworn at me, you've called, and you've patronised Jack because he's 17, and you're people. No, hold on, let me finish, and then you can come in, and then we can have a proper good conversation. So, right, so like I said, when people want their money back, you're quite miffed about that. All these things, right, are speaking and communicating to your fan base, a customer service, stuff like that. If you had a CEO in place, do you not think that's someone to be the middleman, to take this kind of stuff away from you so you can get on with more important stuff that keeping the club going?
yeah, I agree with you. Well,
that was quick.
And
It's
well, not on the 3 points. The reason I picked Jack up is because I know that at 17 I felt differently to I did at 25. He shakes his head because he doesn't know.
No, Ron, it's not that at all. It's the fact that you're picking me out. You've done it. How many times have you done it to me before, Ron? How many times? Every meeting you've done it. And this is the view I get on what you think of the younger generation. I feel like you just brush them away. That's the way I feel. And I feel like you've done that to me many times before, and well, I'm not the only one who thinks that as well.
I don't think so, Jack. I think I actually welcome you.
Why should I believe different? When the way you just spoke to me then, why should I believe different?
I'm just saying, you will have a view, an impression at 17 that would be different when you get a bit older. And you
let's ask if all right then. After this, then even if you do it on private, let's ask a 25-year-old and see if they say the same point, and then we'll go back to that. Then how about that? So you can see the proper generations. I'm sure I'm not the only one who believes what I'm saying at my age.
I think the problem here, excuse me, Jack, I think the problem here, right, is you're 17. We can't change, Ron, we can't change his age magically like that. So we can't change his view magically like that. We have to work with people who are in the fan base of all ages and come from all backgrounds.
I agree, but the point was about financial, about changing things immediately when,
Ron,
when you're not appreciating the financial implications.
Ron, I've got plenty of points. So I used to come watching Southend. I used to go every Saturday completely, home and away, everything, because I used to go for the passion. I used to go for the love of it, the excitement of the games and stuff like that. That's all drawn away now. It's just, what's the point of going, this is how I feel and this is how many other fans feel. What's the point of going to watch a team lose every single week? I used to go out and work Saturdays and stuff to get my money to go to watch these games. Now I think, what's the point? I'll pay for my own season ticket and stuff like that. I've done for years. What's the point now? What do I get back out of it? To watch a team lose every week?
Then I don't suppose you'll come, will you?
No, and I'm sure many fans won't.
But Ron,
That's the point.
and that's the key thing just there. And you've just said, "Oh, I suppose you won't come then." But it's not. That's just brushing it aside. Like, you don't appear. You might care, but you might not. You appear to everyone else that you don't really care. Then if he turns up or not, that's not the attitude. It really isn't.
Of course I care, Scott. But he just said, "What is the point in coming?" He's answering his own question.
Change that. There's a way you can change that.
I would like him to come. But what was your other points you wanted to make, Scott?
So that leads on to my next point. It's about the club feeling part of the community again. Us fans at the moment, and you can ask anyone else in this group, and I'm sure that some of them will agree, right? We feel so disconnected from the football club. From the top to the bottom, we just don't feel a part of it anymore. And it's not because of COVID, right? It's been going on a long time now. And I want to see this club more than anything in the world succeed, right? And I want you to succeed, Ron. As much as I don't like what's going on, I want you to succeed, because the corner we're in at the moment, you are our only hope. And you'll admit that. We are your only hope. You are our only hope at the moment. We just need to connect more with our fans. With the club needs to be more open. It's like this thing that we just have with the tickets, their money back. We have the customers as well as fans. Treat them with the respect they deserve.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought we did, but let's just look. If you feel we're not communicating, do you think the suggestion of what Paul has said would help?
Yeah, of course it will help. It will help massively. But things need to change, and stay changed. We need to keep this up, not just we forget about it. It needs to be regular, and this is good for you as well, Ron, because, like you said, we'll be the first club doing this, right? Right, you've got a chance here to be at the forefront of a real change, real ethical change between club and fans. We should grasp it and run with it.
Well, I think we will do, but I wouldn't be, don't misunderstand me, Scott, I wouldn't be doing it for that reason, to be at the forefront of change. I'll do it for the fans. Of course I want Jack to come. I don't want him moaning, but I also want him to understand. Please, just let me talk this, because it's not a criticism of your son. It's just that, and that's not meant to be demeaning. I mean, I've got two sons of 31 and 27, so it wasn't very long ago they were 17 and 18. I'm just saying that the financial implications of saying make change needs to be thought through, and you will think differently when you've been in business for a period, and you wouldn't ask that question. That's all I'm saying. Of course I want you to come. I love as it happens, I love your passion. I mean, I communicated with you regularly beforehand, and I'm happy to continue. But not many chairmen do what I do in terms of communicating with the fans. We've got nothing to hide.
Clubs have got CEOs though.
Well, actually, even they don't do it, Scott. But yes, I would like a CEO, but I don't want CEO until we've got planning consent, because I want to give that person a future to hang on to.
Then do you feel you've got the time to dedicate as much as a elected CEO would? This is the point, because fans are getting frustrated because they're not hearing much from the club, but they're not hearing anything from anyone with any position of power at the club. So if you had a CEO in place, like I said, it's that go between the two. It's someone to keep fighting them fires for you.
How well did you get on with Jeffrey King?
Not very well. I didn't get on very well with Jeffrey King after he accused Southend fans in the West Stand a long time ago of fighting each other when it was a group of Leicester fans, and he publicly put that on the South United website. And no, not Jeff King, not having that, because just not respected amongst some supporters.
But don't you get my point? Is that whatever we do some people would think that Jeff King was best thing since sliced bread. Other people would say,
Of course, it's all about everyone's got different personalities.
and I
I
think,
understand that.
you know, I think Steve Kavanagh actually had his limitations, but he was a good footballing CEO.
He was.
I didn't encourage him to go, but I wouldn't stand in his way to go to Millwall, and he's enjoyed his time there.
And I don't mean this in the wrong way, Ron, but like you said, a footballing CEO.
Yeah.
That is someone who understands the insides and outs of things like ticket management, stadium management. Just can pick from all them different areas, right? And like I said, act between you and the fans, letting you get on with what you need to get on, because it's clear. I can see that you're getting frustrated and you're tired because you're, like you say, you're working 24 hours a day. Then cut your hours, get us a CEO, and do yourself a favour.
I get some sleep, but you know, you'd probably criticise the CEO when he comes in. But so the individual that
it's not. I probably would criticise it. It would give anyone a chance.
No, not probably.
They just have to communicate.
No, not probably. You would do.
Well,
not necessarily.
When the person comes in, I want him to have a future too, and I think that the trials and tribulations of last year and the curtailing of the season was not the right moment. And actually being relegated probably would change the calibre of the person that I wanted. And the year has been an uphill struggle on the pitch. And as a consequence, the person that I have been speaking to for a long time and is still available would not want to be CEO of a National League club. So there's two things really. One, I'd like to give him a future as to leaving Roots Hall and the opportunity that a new stadium would give us, and our stability in hopefully League Two and the ability to grow from that rather than from the National League, which will definitely be a retrograde step and take longer to achieve. So there's a whole host of things going on in mind, but. What I can agree with you, as I said at the outset, is that I would like a CEO. I think it would be helpful for the club, not just because it would take some of the operational duties from me, because I think that we've got three key personnel in the club who actually manage it very well, like I said at the beginning. But I think they need a conduit and somebody of a senior nature to share things with too. I think that's very helpful, and we will employ a CEO. The likelihood is, Scott, that I'll employ a CEO, maybe not the person I'm talking to at the moment, in the National League in any event.
Can I really quickly interject? Why not now? Why?
Right now.
Well. Within the last year, even. I mean, for my money, any CEO worth their wages would surely love to get involved at a club that's struggling and try and turn them around, would they not? Well,
we're already doing that. I mean, that's to give much credit to the board, does it?
Well, we are. Well, I guess we are, but it might be a little bit too late. That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, but you can't say for certain that I would have bought such a CEO. I mean, ultimately, he doesn't write the checks, does he?
No, and I appreciate it's an expense maybe you don't see that's necessary, but would you not have thought that yeah, as I say, anyone worth their wage would want to get stuck in at a club like us at the moment?
Well, as I said, I want to give them a future, and I think that the future for Southend United is not trying to prop up a infrastructure that's decaying, and when we have planning consent and people can see the future, it will attract the person that we want. There were many people who would be the CEO of a football club. I think a lot of people would consider it probably the dream job, but there's also pressures that come with it. Confronting and being fans and dealing with their concerns. But actually, if the investment isn't there for the future, they will get disenfranchised quite quickly. So I think that there's got to be a pathway and a roadmap up the leagues, because if that wasn't there, then the person I'm likely to attract is probably not the person I'd want for the club. He's got to be ambitious. He's got to want what the board want, what I want.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's just, in my opinion, and I'm not having to dig at you here, but in my opinion, they might not have made some of the, maybe let's go to signings. Maybe some of the signings that happened would not have happened with a CEO.
But Eden, do you see? I get that, and I can look back and probably agree with you on some of those. But the CEO wouldn't make that decision. The manager would go to the CEO and say, "I'd like to buy that player." The CEO wouldn't then discourage him from signing it because he's not supporting the manager. The manager would go off and do something.
But would the CEO not look at potentially a player's injury record and say, "I advise strongly against that"?
Absolutely, but then that happens in any event. We've got medics that do that, and I can agree that. You talk about Kiernan. Yeah, he never really recovered. It was a bad signing, but you wouldn't think Phil Brown was a bad manager for signing Kiernan, would you?
No, I wouldn't. But you said what the wage was, and I remember at the time a lot of people thinking that's quite a bold statement signing to make with the potential injury record he had.
He thought it was Phil thought it was his key signing of the year. It proved to be the most disastrous signing. And he was never mobile after that, was he?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, when Kiernan came to us on loan, first of all, he was never the player that returned to us. So, if you've seen it, you've all got a lot of experience. And I'm now feeling guilty about having a go at Jack. I'm not having to go at Jack. I'm just trying to make the comparison with how you might feel and the how somebody else might feel at a different age and the financial implications of just automatic change. It's not that straightforward. And if you sign somebody and you think is a really good player and you want to secure his future and you have him on a year's contract or a 2-year contract as an option, and he does really well in the first 18 months, and then you exercise the option early, and then he goes downhill, and you're still stuck with him for 18 months of rubbish. And then in between that, a fan comes along and you say, what did you sign him for? Well, actually, a year ago, he was a damn good player. So was Kiernan. But
we kind of did that one earlier. So,
yeah. I know, but
make a point.
But similarly, why we can't make a decision, as Eden says, on the future now?
No.
We have to assess it at the time.
Yeah, that's fine. You've answered it. That's fine. And Eden, you're happy with the answer as much as it's, yeah. So Scott, do you want to continue?
Yeah. So speaking and safeguarding of the club's future, the new stadium, what are the plans with charging rent back to the football club?
We did cover this last time, Scott.
Yeah. It was covered,
Is there a specific point that is in addition to that?
Well, as far as I was aware from last time, I think it was mentioned about, other clubs about what they do?
No. I mean, let me read back what I think Ron said. Yeah. Ron reserves the right to take any money out of the club at any time should we have a windfall. The club won't own anything, and he will probably charge but not insist on payment rent. So there'll be a lease agreement. Ron, is that
right? Okay.
That's correct. In fact, the same situation that exists at present, Paul.
Yes.
Yeah, that is exactly what you'd said at the time, that the same situation would continue as is now.
Yeah.
And that was a concern to us at the time, and we couldn't really understand why the club couldn't underground. And you told us that you thought a potential buyer would or wouldn't want it. I can't remember which way round.
I think that's true. If I was to sell the club, they would want control of the stadium, and wouldn't want to have a leasehold.
Yeah, that's the bit I don't get. So surely the club and the ground kind of go together, and so
well, they do. That was what I'm saying. But if someone bought the football club, bought the shares of the football club, they'd probably want to control the stadium if they could afford it.
Yeah.
Now they might look upon that as an investment and seek a rent. I mean, many clubs pay a rent. I mean, Peterborough pay a rent and quite a high rent. Many do, but Southend hasn't for 23 years.
Yeah, sure. So Scott, was there?
Don't dismiss that, because that's probably like 15 million quid.
Yeah, but it's still hanging over the head. It's still on the books, though, isn't it? It's still a debt
Well,
that's
some
owed,
of
whether it's
it's
you or anyone.
written off. Some of it's written off, and Ron has committed to write that off, and it's been recorded that he said that.
I have, yeah.
Okay.
We
So
wrote off 6.8 million, but Patrick,
The last set of accounts, Ron, you wrote off something like 3 point something million. So fair's fair.
sorry,
Last set of accounts, it was something like 3 point something million, wasn't it? You wrote off. It was
No,
a debt for equity swap.
6.8.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
sorry. And that was a 3.3 million profit, wasn't it?
so I
Patrick,
mean,
do you want to clarify the position for them?
Now, the club's made a loss almost every single year for the last 23 years that Ron's had the club. Over that period, Ron's probably put in close to 30 million, of which he's written off about 6.7 or 6.8 million in the last accounts that were published, which was the 2018 set of accounts. So yeah,
Okay,
Ron's
thank you.
consistently supported the club. And in addition to that, Ron sponsored the club. So the loss you see that Ron's plugging the hole for would actually indeed be bigger than that if there wasn't the sponsorship that he gave the club as well.
sure. So
But
thank you.
substantial investment.
What other questions did Scott have for us?
Yeah.
So the other one is, I think, and this is quite important to a lot of fans, is how is the club, when we move to the new stadium, how is the club going to generate income or enough income on non-match day? Now that the retail part is not involved and it's now reverted to housing.
Well, you must be pleased that we changed our tack from retail, aren't you?
Why would I be pleased to change the tack from retail?
Because there's no value in retail. Why? I mean,
If you own the retail and charge an ongoing rent to that, that's, it's not income.
okay, so give you an example. The Royals was bought in 2016 for 36 million. And it went up for sale last week for 13.6 million. Because Primark moved out, Debenhams went bust. So even though the rent is obviously on a lease, the lease gets ripped up because the company goes bust. And that's happened across retail sector throughout the country. And I'm sure you know that because you've seen a number of shops closing in Southend. So that means the investment yield would have tumbled from probably circa 5% to 8%, which in capital value terms is enormous, Scott, enormous. It means that we would never have been able to afford to build the stadium. So the financial model that we've introduced now is very sound, and it will provide a brand new shiny stadium, and
that you will own, not the club. And so this,
yeah,
you're talking about where the retail
as I do
not have funded it, retail would not have enabled it now because of what you've just said. Housing,
that's
but
correct.
that's not really the question. The question is, where
I was coming on to that. So when the stadium is complete, there'll be sources of income, throughout the stadium. I mean, the main stand, and this is the north stand, has got seating for between 850 and 1,000 people on match days, and that space, even outside the season and every other day of the year, is available for rent, which club will get every penny of it. There's also, you're not seeing it at the moment, but there's a box that goes above the stadium on the south side in the first phase, which is nearly 17,000 square feet. That'll be used for community uses and available for rent, and that rent will also flow to the benefit of the football club. So, stadium on match days do not generate a great deal of money, so you have to create some commercial space to allow that to happen, and that's what we're doing.
So with moving forward with that, so you think that the retail that would have been there in your previous plans,
would have failed.
You think that can match what we're doing, how you've changed it around and what we're doing now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a similar financial model, but retail for the foreseeable future is dead. I think we've all got used to shopping online too. There's been a massive transference of mindset over the last 18 months, and I think that's likely to continue.
So where are we now currently with the council?
Who would imagine that, you know, Amazon would have sort of largely taken over the world on delivery?
You should have built them a warehouse.
Actually, they dictate the terms, Scott, and it's not really worth building an Amazon store because they dictate the terms, because everyone thinks, oh, they pay a lot of money. No, they don't, because they're so large they can dictate what they pay.
Yeah. So where are we now currently with the council? What stage are we at now? Have you heard anything new?
It's this 24/7 comment. I wish I'd never said that because I do get some sleep. But we have weekly meetings with the council. We are trying to get to a planning meeting by the end of April.
And how confident are you at the moment?
If you'd asked me this last week, I would have said 90%. Today, the council did throw up a couple of points that thought it's going to be a real challenge to make it by the end of April. But I'm still hopeful that we can achieve that. And it's not what we do, it's what they do currently, but we're working in a very collaborative manner to get to where we need to get to. And they're being very, very helpful. And why wouldn't they? They want this football club to be successful like we all do.
And just one last point, my group, we have some more technical questions that we will send over to you via email, and we'll expect an answer within a respectable time frame, if that's okay.
Sure. When you do write, Scott, I'm happy to answer them, but give me what you consider a respectable time frame would be, but a week would be good for me.
A week, I think, for both parties is more than enough. So.
Okay. But don't give me 100 questions. I'm assuming that you're talking about 6 or 8 questions, are you?
Yeah, around that sort of. No, more than 5. No, less than 10. So less than 10, more than 5.
Okay, that would be
all right. Okay. Paul, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm very conscious of time, Ron. We said an hour. It's 2. Anybody
Ron,
have anything? Yeah, Jack has something. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that is me done as well. All right.
Jack, I don't want you done. I want you happy, son.
No, I want to come to the next meeting, Ron, and obviously I want to stay in contact with yourself. So if that's all right,
it's perfectly fine by me.
No worries. And you stay safe and you stay well. All right.
Okay.
Simon, you.
Good to meet you all. And anything else?
Ron, just hang on a sec. Simon, I think I have a point.
Yeah, just one question though, Ron, just regarding the council. We've obviously, I live in Westcliff, so of course I get this stuff through the door from the. Because we've got an election coming up. Is that going to put a delay in anything?
Possibly. If we don't get the resolution sorted prior to election and there was a change of administration, then I suspect the next planning meeting will be delayed by 6 weeks. Quite often, a new administration would want to bed in people on their planning committee, and that takes some time. But hopefully, I think we've got cross-party support for the football club. So you wouldn't think that a change of election would fundamentally alter people's views. But I do suspect that if there was a change of administration, then it would delay matters. Yeah.
Thank you for that, and I just want to echo everyone else. Please, get well soon, buddy.
Yeah, I'll try. Unfortunately, it's not within my gift. It's called Mother Nature, but if it works its way, then the artery will repair itself. Thanks for your time. I hope it was helpful. And I apologise if I came across a bit short at times. It is a frustration because all I want is exactly the same as everyone on the screen. Okay, thanks again.
Thanks, Ron. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.